All right, we're going to look at an incredible contrast that is taking place now within the Republican Party. In the last segment, we looked at what's going on in the Democratic Party, Joe Biden approval, voter sentiment about who should run in 2024. Let's now look at the Republican Party. We have, on the one hand, a stunning new poll, which we will look at, which shows that half of Republicans are ready to abandon Trump. They want someone else. They're ready to go. And on the other hand, Donald Trump is still the most popular Republican. And every indication is that if there is a contested Republican primary involving Donald Trump, it's going to be absolutely and utterly insane. So let's start with the first piece first. Half of Republican voters are ready to abandon Donald Trump. Far from consolidating his support, writes the New York Times, the former president appears weakened in his party, especially with younger and college-educated Republicans. Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida is the most popular alternative. And that's something you know if you've been watching the show because we've been talking about it. As Donald Trump weighs whether to open an unusually early White House campaign, that very same New York Times Siena poll, which we cited earlier in terms of Joe Biden and Democratic voters, shows that Trump's post-presidential quest to consolidate support within the GOP has left him weakened. Nearly half of the party's primary voters seek someone different for president in 2024, and a significant number are vowing to abandon Trump if he wins the nomination. Trump appears to have deepened fault lines among Republicans during his year-long revenge tour. A clear majority of primary voters under 35, 64%, as well as 65% of those with at least a college degree, a leading indicator of preferences in the donor class, told pollsters they would vote against Trump in a presidential primary. Reasons include Trump's conduct on January 6th. Overall, Trump maintains his primacy in the party. In a hypothetical matchup against 5 other Republican presidential rivals, 49% of primary voters say they would support him for a third nomination. So we're going to get more into that in a moment. But here are some of these interesting numbers. So if a Republican 2024 primary were held today, who would you vote for? 49% say Donald Trump. 51% say someone else. But as you can see, no individual alternative gets more than 25%. And that, to a great degree, tells us a lot about the potential dynamics of a very fractured 2024 Republican primary. And we are going to get to that. Now, some interesting demographic numbers. Trump does much better, significantly better, notably better with men rather than women, 52 versus 45. And Trump does significantly better with those who have no college degree. In fact, among those with a college degree, Trump loses to DeSantis, 32 to 28. But among those with no college degree, Trump more than doubles Ron DeSantis, 58 to 21. Those are extraordinarily notable and interesting numbers. Now, one other aspect to this is that DeSantis has not run for president before. And so when you look at, Cruz is polling roughly 7% in this particular poll. Mike Pence is polling between 5 and 10, depending on which demographic group. These are known entities. DeSantis is not as known. And in fact, a quarter of Republicans said they don't even have an opinion of DeSantis yet because they don't know enough about him. Those who know who DeSantis is really like him. Unfortunately, a quarter don't, but that's actually a really good thing for Ron DeSantis because it suggests, at least theoretically, that as more Republicans come to know DeSantis, he may be influential in getting people over to his side. And later in today's show, we have a voicemail that asks sort of an important question about DeSantis versus Trump. Should DeSantis and Trump face off in a primary? The poll suggested that support from Fox News could prove crucial. And this could be, I think it is fair to say that at this point, Fox News has been weakened from its prior strength. And it has in part been weakened because of competitors like Newsmax and others. It's in part been weakened because Donald Trump has been significantly antagonistic to Fox News over the last year and a half. But Trump holds a 62 to 26 advantage over DeSantis among Fox News viewers. But among Floridians, it's 16 points closer if they use a different primary source of news. If you don't watch Fox, you're much less likely to support Trump over the DeSantis, and that would be a really critical thing. So half of Republicans, again, with all of these things, you can look at it glass half full or glass half empty, depending on who you are. One perspective would be half of Republicans want someone other than Trump. That's not particularly good for a former president. On the other hand, Trump doubles every other potential competitor right now and would easily win a primary if it were to be held today. And you can decide for yourself which of those two perspectives is more relevant or more valid. And that is the New York Times poll. Let's now go and talk about what the primary dynamics could be. I never have time to read all of the nonfiction books that I want to read. Our sponsor, Blinkist, has solved the problem for me in a way, because Blinkist takes thousands of the best and newest nonfiction books, extracts the key takeaways, and then you can either read or listen to them in 15 minutes. I read all the time. I love narrative nonfiction. I read economics. I read all of these different things. As I said before, I would love to have time to read more history. I just don't right now, especially with a newborn. You should see what's going on in the middle of the night. But with Blinkist, I was able to read. In fact, I listened to a 15-minute audio version of Putin's People by Catherine Belton. With what's going on in Ukraine and Russia, I just wanted more history. How did, in fact, the book is called How the KGB Took Back Russia and Then Took on the West. I wanted to learn, how did this adversarial situation develop? What is the history of the Putin KGB coming to power, etc.? I did not have time to read that book in full, but in just 15 minutes with Blinkist, I was able to get all of the key points, which now I can use when I am talking about Ukraine and Russia and have more context. Blinkist has condensed over 5,000 nonfiction books in 27 categories. Try Blinkist free for 7 days and get 25% off a subscription at Blinkist.com/Pacman. The link is down below.